Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're doing very well. I'm very well. Everything I think is going great as far as I can tell. A lot of people are always like, how are you guys doing? How are you personally doing? How's the business doing? And to that I have to say, everything's going great. Like, I don't want to jinx it, right? Because whenever you start going, oh yeah, everything's brilliant, and numbers are banging, and everyone seems to be enjoying what we're doing, and blah blah blah, you feel like you're setting a trap for yourself, right? But if I were to give what appears to be an objective description of how things appear to be going for us, everything's going really well. So that's down to you. So thank you, everyone, for all of the help. Yeah, I've seen Asmongold watching a bunch of my videos, which is really nice, and he links to them in the description, which is lovely of him. I've got to say, I'm really liking Asmongold. I always was fairly well disposed to him, but I've watched a few of his reactions to my videos, and they're always actually really interesting to watch. I actually enjoy watching them. I'm not someone who watches reaction content normally, but his expressions are genuinely entertaining, and I have been quite enjoying them. But yeah, so as we wait for people to arrive, go click the link in the description, get your copy of Islander before it sells out. We have a larger print run than the previous one, because the previous one sold out sooner than we were expecting. But we have got a limited print run, and once they're printed, they're gone forever, and so get it while you can. People are asking, why do I do this? And the reason is because these magazines, as you can see in the description, what these are deep dives into the cultural and philosophical themes that shape our world. And so they are attuned to the current zeitgeist. And so it's about the here and now. It's about what's happening, what's really happening, spiritually, morally, and temporally. And I don't they are of the moment, but they're also not immediate, right? There are also timeless thoughts in them as well. So it's one of those things where it's one of those things where you have to have been there at the time, because already I see the earlier issues going for like $200 or $300 on eBay, and it's just like, okay, that's cool. I don't want to ruin the secondary market, because I know exactly how many of those were printed. So just saying, you could probably ask for more than that, given the number that were just ever printed of it. But it's really nice to see there being a secondary market, so people can get hold of the old ones if they really want. Because everything that we're doing with these, I mean, we put so much work into this. Like, it's the collaboration of many, many minds, and Rory does an incredible job making it beautiful. The whole thing is a pleasure to read. So do get it while you can. Anyway, so let's begin then, because, man, I can feel the change in the air. I can feel the wind blowing. Now, in Britain, famously, Britain is the country that engages in generally the slowest change. Political change in Britain is glacial, and usually trends that have occurred elsewhere in the world happen like a generation after in Britain. So don't expect anything to happen soon. But the thing is, once the great ship of state that is the British government and the British country starts going in a direction, well, it's difficult to get it to not go in that direction. And you can already see the shoots of spring are already springing up. You can already see the direction in which we're travelling. And, man, that's some good news. That is, like I said, it's going to take a long time, but it's good to see. And I'm very pleased to see that the youth, the young people, understand. Right? They have been paying close attention. They've been listening to their favourite YouTubers. They've been paying attention to the world around them, going, wow, why have I been born and raised in a shithole? Why is this the country that is being handed down to me from my parents and grandparents? I mean, Britain was a legendary place, especially England in particular, but all of Britain is genuinely, it's a land of myth. It's a land that is out of time in many ways. I mean, there are villages in the Cotswolds that have to put up little signs in Japanese explaining to Japanese tourists, this is a real house It's not some Potemkin village. Please don't just walk in because I might be having a shower or something, right? That's how mythological Britain is. It seems like it's not real and like it's been made up as a tourist destination or something. Like it's genuinely a land of myth and legend. And the view of Britain from the outside is something I find genuinely fascinating because it's so much more epic than it feels being on the inside. Like for me, Britain is a normal daily experience. But to the people outside, they've got this gargantuan impression of like the world's biggest empire, the armies and navies that win everywhere, everything. Like the constant stream of invention that we used to have, in fact, for 200 years, we were the ones inventing everything, discovering things, making the world into what it is now, or what it was, say, 60, 70 years ago, when we let go of the reins of empire and everyone else was allowed to take over, and look what a mess they're making of it. So it genuinely is interesting that the British people themselves finally appear to be gaining what I guess you could say amounts to a critical consciousness. And it's nice to see the vanguard of young people who are like, yeah, no, this is fixable and we're going to fix it. In fact, we know how we're going to fix it. There are going to be a lot of boomer libs screeching over this. There are going to be a lot of Blairites who are going to tear out their hair, who are going to run around screaming racist, sexist, xenophobe, blah, 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 Islamophobe, all of the words that they were taught by leftists. They're going to be screaming those forever, but I can't help but feel that the young people are not going to let that stand in the way. I think they're like, yeah, okay, Grandpa, I'm not interested. What I want is for my children to go to school safely. You might not have been bothered about it, but I'm bothered about it, and that's what we're going to get. And I tell you what, I love to see it. I absolutely love to see it. And this has been inspired by a discussion here on Newsnight. Now, Newsnight is one of the BBC's, I think it's their flagship political programme. So a lot of people end up watching it. And it's currently hosted by Victoria Derbyshire. And she had Poppy Coburn and Shami Chakrabarti discussing the asylum system and human rights. Now, I mean, there's a few things. Can't help but notice that Victoria Derbyshire, intransigent feminist that she is, seems to have a lot of women on her show. Interesting how representation works when you're the ones in charge, isn't it? But the thing that is good here is that the right-wing Zoomer e-girls in Britain seem to be of higher quality than the right-wing Zoomer e-girls in America. It's not that they aren't lovely. I'm sure they're all lovely. Although I did just witness the strangest catfight over one of them getting married on Twitter. I was just like, okay, well, if the British Zoomer e-girls could conduct themselves with slightly more dignity than that, that would be wonderful. Thank you, ladies. Would really appreciate it. If you get married, please just congratulate each other. Just don't go down the road the American girls went down. So I really actually do think that if there is hope, it lies with the Zoomers, because the Zoomers, I think, have had enough of the post-World War II narrative. They've had enough of their country falling apart, and they're actually like, no, we can identify the problem because it's not mystical, right? It's not something that was imposed upon us. They didn't come down on tablets from Mount Sinai. These things are things that have been done to us by ourselves. We chose to impose these fetters on ourselves, and we're like, oh God, if only we could take these off. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, we can take them off anytime we want, actually. It's like, yeah, no, I know, but morally, we're committed to these fetters, aren't we? And then everyone's like, not really. Can we could just take them off. Oh, look at that. Look at that. We're totally free to do as we please because, one, of Brexit, and two, Parliament is sovereign and we can just do what the fuck we like. If we want to decree that the sky is green and the grass is blue and that up is down and down is up and right is left and left is right, we can do it. Like, I'm not saying it makes sense to do that, but we could do that, and that would be the law of the land if we so choose. Because there is an advantage to not having a written constitution, and that's you can do what the fuck you like. And so we should. And this, I think, is what the Zoomer e-girls are realising. And not just the Zoomer e-girls, the Zoomer lads as well. And I just want to give them a shout out too, because in Britain, we are genuinely blessed with a surprisingly talented crop of right-wing youth. right? I think they've all been listening to some particularly handsome YouTubers in their time, but we're actually really, really lucky that our young political men and women are very smart, and they are very switched on, and they can see exactly where the obstacles are, and they're like, right, okay, no problem, we can navigate this. So, like I said, this isn't going to be a fast change, because, of course, the boomers and the older Gen Xers are never going to willingly give this up. Right, they're never, even now, our politics is dominated by boomers or late Gen Xers like Keir Starmer. Starmer missed being a boomer by a couple of years, same as Farage, but they're basically boomers. But these people are never going to give up the brains of power, but eventually they'll grow old and won't be able to get out of their wheelchairs and be taken to their nursing homes. So, I'm only 45, so I'll hopefully live to see it, which would be wonderful. And if not, my children and then hopefully grandchildren will live to see it. So, God willing. But anyway, so let's watch. Honestly, I've been reading Spengler a lot recently, right? And he's like, optimism is cowardice. It's like, listen, man, I've never shown cowardice in the face of the enemy, and yet I'm still a perennial optimist. Sometimes I do get depressed about the state of my country, obviously, but I don't think the war is by far from over. I mean, the war hasn't even begun, frankly. And I think now we're just starting to get some pushback. And what's happening is the libs, the Blairite libs, from the late 90s, early 2000s, right up until basically now, their entire narrative has completely collapsed, right? Everything, they've gone from back when Keir Starmer, back when the Tories left, going, look at all this crime, the Tories have let this crime go on for so long, it's run rampant, and they've moved to, well, Keir Starmer's just got in power, like he's got to figure out how to fix all of the crime. Look at the rampant crime that the Tories have left us with, to now realizing that the right has been making a lot of hay with this. Yeah, it's pretty bloody lawless, isn't it? And so now they're like, no, it's not lawless, I don't know what you mean. And then when you just search their Twitter feed for mugged, you'll find that almost every single one of them at some point in the last 5 years has been fucking mugged. And it's like, yeah, there we go, mate. Right? That's exactly what we're talking about. You have been the victim of this too. You are just playing partisan politics, because everyone can see that the country is just getting more dangerous, it's getting more dilapidated, and it's getting darker. Like, the general feel and tone of the country is just bloody bleak at this point. I didn't actually get up for this, but I covered it on a CAD Daily. 45% of people are just okay with the idea of not letting in any more foreigners and just deporting a bunch of the ones that are actually here. That's fine. What could be summarised as remigration. 45% already, and we've barely even started trying to explain to them the benefits of this, and they're already on board. So it's one of those things where it's just like, the future is actually looking bright. It's going to take a long time to get there. That's the problem. And we can't sit back on our laurels and pretend that this is going to do it itself. No, it's going to be a lot of time. It's going to be a lot of work. And one thing that people on the British right should remember, we're all in this together. We have to support each other. I'm very tired of watching sniping against one another on Twitter. That we've got too many enemies to the left. There's no point punching to the right. It doesn't even matter like how milquetoast you find that person or how contradictory you think their arguments might be. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's everyone basically agrees that remigration is what needs to happen. And again, half the public agree of this. So the need to persuade people on that is pretty much over. Now it's just going after left-wing narratives and destroying them all, right? The left have to feel completely surrounded, completely isolated, and frankly, beaten. They have to feel beaten. Because they bloody well are. Like, no one can they can't point the finger at anything other than themselves for the current state of the world. We have had 27, 28 years of Blairism, non-stop, uninterrupted, hegemonic Blairism, and look at the fucking state of it, right? So it's not that they've got nothing to come back on. Their only argument can be, as the shit libs are doing now, oh, actually, things are getting better. No, they're not. They're not getting better. And everyone can tell they're not getting better. It's not persuasive at all. No one believes it. Shut your goddamn mouths, right? And they need to feel isolated, alone, and on a sea that they don't understand. In a world that's changed around them. And suddenly they're like, oh, well, why is everyone saying that everything's totally fucked? Why is no one like a Blairite liberal like I was when I was young? Why are they all way more to the right or to the left of me? Why is no one maintaining the centre ground? It's because the centre ground caused all of this. Like, I'm not saying there won't be problems going to the left or to the right, but at least it won't be these problems, right? At least it'll be something different. At least it'll be change. Anyway, so like I said, we'll watch some of this and talk about this, because this is genuinely fascinating, entertaining, and I think a sign of things to come.
It doesn't matter how much you talk about rights, it doesn't matter how much you try to impose on people a counter-narrative. If they do not agree with the principle that people from all over the world who have been displaced by conflict have an automatic right to settle in the UK, you are never going to get rid of this issue. It's not one of comms.
It's not one of comms.
No.
So this is really entertaining to me, right? So Poppy looks very confident. She's just sat up properly. She's looking straight in the face. She's like, listen, it's not about poor communication, right? It's not that people don't know your narrative on the benefits of diversity. They've been to the restaurants, and even though they've been to these restaurants, they're still like, we need remigration, actually, lads. These people need to go home either way. And then you get Victoria Derbyshire's like, oh, right, it's not about comms. Right, okay. Like, wide-eyed surprise, like, oh, right. Okay, well, then what's the problem then? And Poppy goes on to explain it.
It's one of refugee conventions.
It's one of numbers. It's completely one of. I mean,
but the numbers. Okay. But let's be honest about the numbers, because the numbers are being distorted.
But you mentioned
right. So now you have Shami Chakrabarti. Now, Shami Chakrabarti is one of the old Labour relics from the Blair years. In fact, you can look at her Wikipedia page. She's been doing this for a long time. And she was Chancellor of Oxford Brookes University from 2006 to 2015. She was Chancellor of the University of Essex. And then she was made a member of the House of Lords in 2016 by the Tories. I'm not sure why. She's a shadow Attorney General under Jeremy Corbyn. So she's a Labour Party grandee, right? She has been Labour for her whole life. A barrister, a human rights activist. She was the director of a major advocacy group that promotes civil liberties and human rights from 2003 to 2016. She was a core member of the Blair movement that brought in this tyranny of human rights. She was completely a part of it. And now she's sat there going, but what are you saying? That, like, the human rights that I spent my entire career championing and instantiating, how can you say that they're the problem? And Poppy is sat there going, yeah, that's the problem. All we need to do is just fucking abolish it. Right? So, there are, again, a bunch of things there. Look at the body language, right? Victoria Derbyshire was like, huh, I've never heard these thoughts before. Because, of course, Victoria Derbyshire is not one of our best and brightest. Poppy is kind of like, I'm laying it down, and Shami just looks like, well, I'm just sort of sinking into my chair, not really able to formulate any kind of counter argument, because my entire career has just presumed the righteousness of the thing that I'm suggesting. And it's like, okay, but if actually there is a flaw with the doctrine of human rights, that is, actually the global south is full of people who are just not really good people by our standards. Now, that's not to say they're all bad or anything. It's just there are large numbers of people in the global south, and of those people, like a subsection of those are good people, but a subsection of those are bad people. And then actually that turns into millions of people who will take advantage of the fact that we just have open borders, and we are basically, and this is what Macron came over to Britain and was like, listen, you need to stop your welfare state because it is attracting these people. They know you give out free money like it's going out of fashion. And so they take all these dangerous journeys and they get here and they're like, yeah, great, money. Because remember where these people come from, like we give them £40 a week spending money, I think it is, or maybe something £400 a month, something like that. Like, so it's not a huge amount of money by our standards. But by the standards of people who literally don't have two goats to breed, yeah, that's a lot of money, especially after we've paid for everything for them. We pay for their accommodation, we pay for their food, we pay for their healthcare, assuming they need it. We pay for everything that they need. And then we give them £400 a month spending money. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Oh, they're refugees. They're refugees. Yeah, that's why they're 90% men and why they just break into our country on a dinghy, right? They're refugees. If they were genuinely, like, fleeing persecution, they'd just be like, oh, great, I'm in Europe. I'll stay in France or Germany or wherever, right? But they don't, because we are more generous than them, stupidly, and they know it. And in fact, Victoria Derbyshire, again, I didn't get it up for this. I did. So a lot of the time I don't exactly know where these monologues are going to go when I start talking, so things jump to my mind that I should have prepared in advance. But Victoria Derbyshire had an interview with one of these Channel migrants, and he's from, like, you know, some West African country. And she was like, oh, why did you take such a perilous journey? And it's because he's a 20-year-old man, and you're like a 65-year-old woman, and actually, she can't understand why a 20-year-old man would be prepared to take the kind of risks that he took to get to a place. And it's like, look, heroism, Victoria. He's on TikTok being like, look how heroic I am, braving all of these dangers, and I got to Britain, and I got my loot. That's what they're here for, Victoria. They're here for loot. They know it. They say it on TikTok. We know it because we're not 65-year-old women. You seem to be the last one to catch up, and this is the way things are. And Poppy is rightly saying, right, okay, so this refugee human rights nonsense that was developed in the 20th century was on the assumption that these, essentially, if a European power started invading another European power, then we would take in the Europeans who were displaced by war in Europe. That was the assumption. And that's not what's been happening. What actually happened is we expanded to the whole world because liberalism is stupid. And we decided that, oh, everyone in the world is basically the same as your average German or Frenchman or Italian, maybe even your average Spaniard. And so basically, why can't they all just come? And it turns out the world's massive and full of diverse people, often who are fucking retarded or believe crazy things about the universe and believe crazy things like, actually, you don't need to really be respectful of the people around you. And if you're not taking advantage of government handouts, then you are a sucker. And you should be. And that's actually a super common opinion around the entire world. I mean, they also think that white women are whores. They also think that Western powers, the Western countries, are exhausted, weak, basically on the verge of collapse, which itself might not be false. And that the men are cowards and aren't going to stand up for themselves. Again, might not be false. And so, like, there's all these different attitudes, and we're like, yeah, we'll just bring as many as we want over. And we wonder why they're mogging us from the hotel rooms that we're paying for. Like, if we did the same in their country, they would break into these hotels, drag us out into the streets, and beat us, and they'd be right to do so. But instead, they're chucking shit down at people who are walking past, they're scorning us. And then, obviously, there's a huge incident of rape that they do. They're here to just get white women, as far as they're concerned, as far as many of them are concerned. And so it's just, all right, okay, this can't go on forever, can it? And so now we've got Poppy trying to slowly explain to them, gently explain to them, that actually this was crazy. The Tony Blair liberal view that all people are the same is fucking bollocks. Total nonsense. You'd have had to have been mad to believe it. And she's got to gently explain to these two old dears, who are both, I think Shami's 55, Victoria Derbyshire's in her 60s, like, they're trying to explain to these two old dears, look, the things you believed when we lived in like a 90% homogenous England turned out not to be true, right? They turned out just to be fucking wrong. Not just wrong either, like, cataclysmically wrong, orders of magnitude different to what reality actually is. And so she's trying to gently, like, and actually maybe it's the laws themselves. And Shami, being a lawyer, is just like, no, I just can't imagine that.
The poll that you were referring to earlier is that people think there are many more illegal migrants coming to the country than actually are.
But to offer
so that's true, right? People have no idea what immigration is like in Britain, and then they still think it's too high and want them deported. So that's very interesting. So this is from this survey, UK Onward, where they in 2022 they did a study polling the public, and I mean, in these years, like, net migration at the time was a record high of 745,000. It has been superseded since then. right? But that was the net. 750, say, thousand people came in 2022, which is crazy. And when asked, the average estimate from the public was that, and this is not illegals, this is just legal immigrants, just net immigration was 70,000. So it's out by a factor of 10. Like, people have no idea just how destructive immigration has been. And just the actual levels is just, again, imagine just being so wildly off and yet still being like, yeah, God, there are way too many immigrants around. This is crazy, right? And people tend to think that they tend to think also, in fact, is it in this? By the way, this is the proportion who want immigration to be higher, the same or lower. Obviously, in every cohort, 62% of 18 to 24-year-olds, lower. 67% of university graduates. 68 Remainers. 68% of Londoners. 72% of all Labour voters. 76% of all people in the country. 3/4 of people, just like lower. Obviously lower. What are you, fucking nuts? But yeah, I can't. No, it's not in this one. But there are other polls where you see that people think the majority of immigration into Britain is illegal. It's like, nope, that's a drop in the bucket. In 5 years, we've had about 185,000 illegals in, which, don't get me wrong, is a lot. Way more than we should have. Should be zero. Love my zeros. But compared to 750,000 in a year, and there are other years that was basically a million net in, about 980 or something. Compared to the actual number we're letting in every year, it is nothing. And yet people have no idea. They think the legal immigration is 70,000, and they think most of immigration is illegal. So that is correct. Shami is right. We need to properly educate people about the numbers. It's not really the illegals that are the problem. It's our governments are fucking traitors and have been stabbing us in the fucking back for decades now. And they've just been ramping it up, and they will continue ramping it up.
Corrective to this, there was a poll that was done by Onward that asked people how many migrants do you think are coming to the UK altogether?
Yeah.
And they
legal
answered,
and illegal.
Legal and illegal. They answered 70,000, which is obviously wrong by a factor of 10. And even then, when massively underestimating the number of people coming, they still said migration is too high.
Okay, so why is it then?
Completely correct. 100%. And so based right-wing reactionary British public, there aren't that many. I get 70,000, that's not that many. Don't want them here, though.
And governments of Conservative persuasion and so far Labour persuasion cannot do what they promised the public, which is, in Rishi Sunak's case, stop the boats. Thus far, with Sir Keir Starmer, smash the gangs.
So, notice how this is not really the problem, right? Again, obviously bad that in 5 years, 180,000 illegals have broken into our country. Terrible consequences have followed, yes. But notice how Victoria is not addressing the lion's share of the immigration, which is the legal immigration, which is the Home Office with their auto-franking machines, rubber stamping furiously, visa, boom, visa, boom, boom. I mean, they must literally stamp thousands a day. In fact, chat, calculate for me how many 1.2 million is divided by 365 while I'm doing this. Calculate that for me, because that's how many visas they give out a day, right? Now, what's interesting as well is that only about 250,000 in any given year are work visas, another bunch are student visas, and then another sort of 300,000 or so are dependents. So people who are not here to work, people who are here to either live with someone who does work or suck off the British state. And this is this is one of those things where it's just people like it's 3,500 a day. What it feels like it's more than that. But anyway, well done. The point is they are doing a lot, right? A lot. And most of them are not people who are here to work. Now, even if they were here to work, I don't care. We have people working here. We've got such a high number of people on disability at this point, who are obviously not disabled, right? What was the disability numbers? Let me just Google that very quickly, because it was actually... It's actually fucking... Right, okay, I thought it was, but I didn't want to say it, because, like, you know, you see a figure, and you're like, okay, I'll remember that for later. And then later comes, and you're like, That can't have been right, because that sounds fucking preposterous, right? But apparently, a quarter of the UK population has a disability. 16.1 million people are reported to have disabilities in the UK. Did we lose a fucking war or something? Like, this is fucking ridiculous, isn't it? And then you've got the expenses that come with this. I mean, look at this. It's just going up every year. Every year. From 2002, where it was about 11 million, up to 2022, when it's like 16 million. That is crazy. Obviously, 1 in 4 people isn't a war veteran missing a limb, right? 1 in 4 people are not fucking disabled. It's people who are like, oh yeah, I have autism or ADHD. That's right. I need a Motability car. You know, I need to just be given this. You know, you can see how the whole thing, nonsense, right? Absolute nonsense. The numbers are crazy, and I can't even remember the point I was making with this, because this has got me on a bloody tangent. What was it she said now?
Thus far, with Sir Keir Starmer, smash the gang.
Oh yeah, right. The legal immigration. Right. A bunch of those people who are dependents and who work are going to be claiming this. Like, and this is not even discussing healthcare tourism or just literally benefits claimants. We know that we're paying $1 billion a month in benefits as well. Let me there we go. Just from the Telegraph. Again, I just want to be able to properly substantiate, so you're not like, really, that can't be true. No, that's totally true, right? That's totally true. We pay £12 billion a year to foreigners for benefits in Britain. So the 300,000 a year dependents we're bringing over, we're just paying for it. Half of the social housing in London is occupied by foreigners. For some reason, we're just paying unbelievable amounts of money, like to house foreigners. It's ridiculous. And yet Victoria Derbyshire's like, so those illegals then? No. I actually don't care that much about the illegals. Every single one of these out. Every single foreigner in a fucking social housing out. Just deport. There is no point them being here. Send them home. They have homes to go to. They all have... I mean, we know that they do. So they were born and raised somewhere. They can go back. But anyway, Victoria's like, yeah, so those illegals then, you know?
Gangs.
Well, it's because we're bound by this principle of rights, which is outdated and does not work for the modern world. If you want to actually do something, it's got nothing to do with smashing the gangs. It's got nothing to do with one in, one out. You have to leave the Refugee Convention. You'd have to leave the ECHR. You'd have to abolish the Human Rights Act.
Okay.
Well, that's not a country.
You have to leave the Refugee Convention. You'd have to...
I really enjoy the confidence with which Poppy is laying this down. She's like, no, the problem cannot be solved until you leave the ECHR, the Human Rights Act, and the Refugee Convention. True. All true. Right? I don't know about the Refugee... I'm sure the Refugee Convention would have been after World War II, but the ECHR, I imagine that was under Blair. I'm just going to check that. In fact, I'm just going to double check this. I should have checked it before the stream, but there we go. It wasn't the important thing that I wanted to talk about. So we joined the Refugee Convention in 1951, the European Convention on Human Rights in 1950, but of course the Human Rights Act in 1998. There have been several other acts that have tagged onto that since, but the point being, it's the post-World War II consensus solidified by Blairism, right? That's what needs to go. And, I mean, this, right, the fact that this is being broadcast on the BBC is a great shift in the discourse, right? This is unthinkable 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we would never have had based right-wing Zoomer on the BBC being like, yeah, so human rights, they got to go. Obviously, duh, you know. Human rights got to go. Refugee Convention, got to go. European Court of Human Rights, got to go. or the Convention on Human Rights, sorry, the European Court too, that's got to go. All of it's got to go. This is a wonderful advance in the dialectic for us, because now they have to argue why that shouldn't happen. And the answer will be, and no matter what they say, the answer will be, we want as many of these adventuring rapists in our country as we can get. That will be the consequence of whatever they say. To keep these things means more and more foreign rapists illegally coming to the country, throwing away their passports, then being put in hotels and houses at taxpayer expense, all expenses paid for, so they can find some fucking schoolgirls and do unspeakable things to them, right? And it's like, yep, okay, well then that's all got to go then. That's all going to go. And the reason this is possible is because the reason all of this works is because what this does is sets up a legal infrastructure for what Boris accurately called lefty human rights lawyers, don't know why he didn't do something about it, to use the power of appeal and the power of the courts to essentially make it that judges can turn around and say, yeah, I mean, he just didn't know what he was doing, and so he gets to say, because we've got to balance his human rights, and like Article 8 with his right to life, with the terrible things that he's done. So on balance, we found that actually he's not going to go to jail. He'll do like 12 weeks community service, and he gets to stay here forever. Obviously, we need to keep him in the country, and that's the judges. We have so many judges who just hand out these fucking decisions day after day after day. Every single day, there's some migrant rapist who's not being deported because of his human rights. So, yep, no, that needs to go. So the judges just have no option, right? The judges are interpreting Article 8 of the Human Rights Act in insane ways, right? In ways, honestly, I mean, it doesn't justify at all. We've covered this on Load Seaters. Like, it's actually, if you read it, it's actually a fairly bland piece of text, because what it's for is to make sure the government doesn't just come in and interfere in your family life, which makes sense, and you can see why they'd want one. But this has been expanded and distorted and interpreted in various ways that the judge is like, well, the famous one of the kid, his kid doesn't like the chicken nuggets in Albania, so he can't deport him back to Albania. He's got to stay here. It's like, sorry, fuck off. I don't give a shit. How is access to British chicken nuggets a human right? So anyway, the point being, all of this legislation has to go. So lefty human rights lawyers and their activist judges cannot take advantage of it. Because when it's not there, they can't appeal to it, and they'll have to go, well, look, I'm as much of a communist as the rest of you, but I would love for you to stay here and rape British children. But unfortunately, some evil right-wing fascist government has made it so you're going to get deported and you've got no legal recourse because you're a fucking criminal. Sorry, I did my best for you, scum of the earth. But unfortunately, you're going to be prevented from raping British children. I'm just sorry. I'm just so sorry that's the case. I'm just going to go weep at the injustice of the far-right fascist government that has made it so that British children are protected from foreign rapists. I'm just gutted. But anyway, the point being, this is the only place they've got left to go. And, well, this is what Shamli tells us.
Leave the ECHR, you'd have to abolish the Human Rights Act.
Okay.
Well, that's not a country that I would feel very comfortable about, and I think...
Great. Bye. You are free to fucking leave whenever you want, right? Because I'm not comfortable in a country where a bunch of foreign rapists and murderers and whatnot get to break in and get treated like fucking royalty, right? I don't get shit paid for. I'm not put up in a hotel. Just I have to pay to stay in hotels, for fuck's sake. Like, but a bunch of foreign men can break in and get loads of money and just the keys to the kingdom for no fucking reason other than your Refugee Convention, ECHR, and the Human Rights Act. Oh, they can all go. They can all go. The fucking indignity, the insult to the dignity of the British people of this. And you just being like, well, I just want to be comfortable in a country that doesn't venerate foreign men who break in and rape kids. Yeah, boo-hoo. Good. If that's a problem to you, then I'm for it. I'm totally for it. And every single one, like when Rupert Lowe wins, they all just get deported. I mean, I personally think that's too soft a punishment. I'm in favour of bringing back corporal punishment, especially for people like this. But what are you going to do? What do? But anyway.
That I would feel very comfortable about, and I think that a lot of people have a very, very deep sense of decency, of compassion and fairness. And
We've got to think of the fairness, right? I mean, think of young Ahmed who broke in, who took your money, and then was stalking your daughter down a dark alley, and then molested her. Right? We got to be fair to both sides here, right? We've got to think of empathy and compassion, and we've got to think of our universal human rights. Their human rights to have access to your children, and their human rights to have access to your money, and their human rights to laze around in the middle of fucking town, just drinking coffee all day and doing nothing. Have you considered their human rights of this? And it's like, you know what? I have. And I'm against them. Fuck these guys. I want to drive them into the fucking sea. How dare they be here? How dare they do the things that they do? And how dare you be on their side? What do you think you're doing? Honestly, it's absolutely disgusting. They start going, well, I just want a compassionate, empathetic country. So, well, I don't know whether you've noticed, but the country's going down the fucking shitter. Your compassion and empathy is turning us into a third world hellhole. And all the Blairite shitlibs have got left is to go, no, it's not, no, it's not. I'm not even asking for your opinion, right? I'm telling you, this is what I see. If you don't see the same thing because of your ideological goggles, not my problem, but I'm not alone in this. Everyone sees it. Everyone's sick of it. Everyone's tired of England feeling unsafe. Everyone's tired of England feeling grimy and dirty and run down and expensive and massively just dilapidated at this point. Everyone's tired of it and everyone sees it and nobody's happy with it. So trust me, if that means we sacrifice empathy or human rights, then they go. They absolutely go. Because by the time I'm done, I want to be able to look around and go, yeah, no, this country's starting to look a bit better. I mean, I remember it was gorgeous when I was a kid. Absolutely gorgeous. And it can be gorgeous again. Like, and the thing is, right, we totally took it for granted. We just assumed it would always be like this. And it was just, this was the normal state of affairs. But now we can see that that's not the case. But I remember, and people my age and older remember, that the country used to be lovely, and just because Baroness Chakrabarti here can't see it from her ivory tower, I'm sure where she lives is absolutely lovely. I'm sure where she lives is very sequestered, but that's not the way that most of us live, and we're sick and tired of seeing it. And by the time we're done, I swear to God, this country is going to be nicer. This country is going to be on the right path to repair, so I can die happy that my children and grandchildren will live in England. And they will be proud of their country. That's what's going to happen. And it's non-stop. I don't know whether you've noticed, but it's non-stop total war against people like you at this point, Shami. It's non-stop total war against the Blairite fucking order. Everything about it's going to go, right? Nothing about this country is going to be universal in the future. When we win, it's going to be British. The British people will get on the basis that they are British. Right, and I'll explain to you why in a minute.
remember, we are all non-nationals in every other country on earth. If we start deconstructing the international rules-based order, chaos and some pretty evil things will lie in our future.
Boo-hoo. Now that's a very interesting point. We are all non-nationals in every other country. Well, that's not entirely true, is it, Miss Baroness Chakrabarti? Because you're a Bengali of ethnic Bengali heritage, right? So you actually can go, excuse me, Bangladesh, I would like to invoke the right of jus sanguinis. Because according to the Citizenship Act of 1951, one method of acquiring Bangladeshi nationality via jus sanguinis, citizenship by the right of blood, means that one may acquire citizenship whether or not they were born on Bangladeshi sovereign territory or not. So at any point in time, Shami Chakrabarti can ring up the Bangladeshi embassy and go, hi there, I'm of Bangladeshi blood. I would like citizenship in Bangladesh, please. Thank you very much. So it's not that we're all stateless outside of Britain, are we? Right? And just what's really interesting, right, is just how particular Bangladesh is about their own citizenship. Right? Now, I personally don't see Bangladeshi citizenship as something very desirable or very exclusive, but the Bangladeshis do. And you know what? Good for them, actually, right? So when it comes to naturalization, Look at these requirements. Naturalization is permitted by the citizenship law of Bangladesh. Any adult of good character who is married to a Bangladeshi and residing legally in Bangladesh for a period of 5 years, competent in the Bengali language, and intending to reside in Bangladesh can apply for naturalization. So, I mean, that is so much more strict than in Britain, where we've got, after 5 years, the right to remain. If you've just been on British soil for 5 years, you can just apply to become a British citizen and stay here forever. In Bangladesh, you have to be married to a fucking Bangladeshi, to a citizen. You have had to actually have integrated into the society through marriage, which is the traditional way of marrying people. So, sitting there, like, being like, well, we're all just citizens of this country, and if we denaturalize a bunch of people, then, you know, we're not citizens of anywhere else. You could be, right? But the thing is, I bet Poppy, I bet she couldn't be. I bet she doesn't have a blood claim to any other country, does she? Because remember, we're not a birthright country. We're through jus sanguinis as well, as most countries in the old world are. Most countries in the old world are by the right of the blood. And so you have a right of the blood in another country, even if you never use it or invoke it or choose it. You have an option. If this country goes south, you have somewhere that you are entitled to go by your blood. Poppy doesn't. I don't. Like, where are we supposed to go? What are our options here? Like, we don't have anywhere else. And so if your human rights render this country essentially uninhabitable, which is, judging from the way things are going, what it looks like is going to happen, then you have an out. But we don't. We're stuck with it. We're stuck with looking at what you've done to us and saying, right, okay, well, it's going to have to be these human rights bullshit laws, they're going to have to go, aren't they?
On Earth. If we start deconstructing the international rules-based order, chaos and some pretty evil things will lie in our future.
Well, fuck the international rules-based order. If that means we have to sacrifice England to any foreigner who wants to claim it, then the international rules-based order will die before England does. That's my personal view, and I think that a lot of people share that view with me. Fuck your rules order, because frankly, I mean, it doesn't seem to be working, does it? You know, did it stop Putin from invading Ukraine? Did it stop Gaza and Israel war happening? And there are other wars that are kicking off. I'm sure there was one in Azerbaijan or whatever that Trump was getting involved in the other day. Like, doesn't stop anything. It's a liberal fiction that actually international diplomacy can just be entirely based on conventions and negotiations and just very rational, level-headed people. Yeah, that only works until it doesn't. And I think we're arriving in the point where it just doesn't. I think the fantasy of the international rules-based order is falling apart around our ears. I think everyone's really starting to catch up with that. So you might be like, well, look, I don't like what that causes in the future. I'm not saying I do either. But what I'm saying is the fiction of the liberal world order is coming to an end. The liberal era is passing. I don't know whether you've noticed, but you are on the wrong end of this change. You are like Fukuyama in the last video I did, you're a dinosaur. You are part of a breed that is going extinct, because why don't the Shami Chakrabartis, the Francis Fukuyamas, the Lewis Goodalls of the world, why don't they ever ask themselves, why are my politics not represented with young people? Right? Why is it liberals are old now? Why is it all of the people on the Blairite plantation are old? Why didn't young people see how great a world would produce and be like, yeah, they're my politics because look at how great everything turned out? Or look at I can feel the fundamental truth in allowing Ahmed to come over and rape a bunch of kids. Why aren't they buying into it? And the reason they're not buying into it is because it's fucking bullshit. It's total fucking bullshit. And it's not making the world any better. It's not making them any safer. It's not making us any more prosperous. And it's not making the world any more peaceful. Right? In fact, what it's done is made the world catastrophically destabilized. It's upset the traditional relations between groups of people, because it doesn't really recognize groups of people. And so it's rendered a large portion of our intelligentsia blind to what is actually happening. Because what's actually happening is groups interacting, whether you like it or not. And I'm not saying I'm in favor of it, but that's just the way that the world works. And the Zoomers are starting to realise, oh yeah, no, that is the way the world works, actually. All of this bullshit that the liberals, oh, everyone's just a radical, free-floating, atomic individual. No, that's not true. Everyone actually comes from a society and carries a civilization with them, and they act like it, no matter where they go. And the Zoomers are catching them going, oh, right, okay, which one are we then, guys? And you've got people like me going, you are the English, and you should fucking act like it. This whole thing is coming to an end, and they know it. I mean, look at how just genuinely low energy, deflated Shami seems. She seemed basically to have capitulated at this point. And I've got no sympathy. This is the product of your worldview playing out. You've got nothing else to pay. You can't point a finger at anyone. And all you can do is like, well, I think bad things will happen in the future. Breaking fucking news. Bad things are happening now. Bad things happen all the time. The question is how we handle them and what the likelihood of more bad things happening are. And at the moment, the likelihood of more bad things happening is almost guaranteed, because it seems like it's basically been every single fucking day that a migrant has raped a child from one of these hotels. Right? It's every goddamn day. There is a new one, and a new one, and a new one, and tomorrow there's going to be another one. And it's just every goddamn day, and I'm just so tired of it. So tired of it.
Well, you're a human rights lawyer. Sir Keir Starmer was a human rights lawyer. You know him well. You've moved in the same circles. Can you ever imagine him resiling from those international treaties?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
There we go. Keir Starmer, Shami Chakrabarti, obviously dyed in the wool, completely indoctrinated into the Blairite view of human rights, and yet, where are her progeny? Where are they? Like, you don't see them around. Like, I'm sorry, I know that there are lots of young people on the left. I know there are lots of young people on the right. Don't see many of the centrist Blairite young people. Anyway, like I said at the beginning, folks, go and get your copy of Islander number 4. The Islander magazines are kind of cyclical, right? So this is the closing of the first cycle of Islander. Again, it's all very Spenglerian, but it's the closing of the cycle, and it's not pessimistic either, right? It's realistic, but it's not pessimistic. We are going to win. Anyway, I'll go through some super chats and then we'll call it an evening. When I figure out how to get to them. I don't know what orange pilled means. What does orange pilled mean? Chat, someone tell me what orange pilled means. Someone pointed out as well, by the way, that if you take out the weekends and bank holidays, then it's about 6,000 a day that they're stamping, the visas that they're stamping, which is like, that's crazy. This is absolutely mental when you think about it. It's like, what a fucking number. 6,000, man. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this actually up, but for some reason, it's not doing it. There we go. They won't let change happen. Well, the thing is, I think that they're going to find themselves out of options. Obviously, as Shami points out, Keir Starmer will never orange pilled as Trump pilled. Oh man, well I've been a Trump supporter for years now, like since like 2017, I think it was. I first properly started supporting Trump. Someone in the chat, oh, I'm owned by the Jews. It's like I'm not actually. I was recently invited to take a trip to Israel, though. And I'm not even joking about that. Just have to say, obviously, I declined politely. I personally have got no desire to go to Israel. I've got no interest in the modern Middle East at all. But no one has anything on us. We are completely independent. And it's all, honestly, it's all because of you guys. Go sign up to lowseas.com. Go buy Islander 4. Keep us independent. Right? I don't want to have to take a fucking trip to the Wailing Wall. Right, I really don't want to have to. Which means you have to go and buy Islander 4 so we can afford to exist. And I don't have to go get a fucking photo of myself there. I'm not even joking. I'm not going to touch that wall, Dan. But you are going to go fucking buy Highlander. And I just want to be clear, I don't hate Jews or anything like that. I'm not like, and I don't think anyone says I do either. But like, I just want to make it clear, I view this as a very new, personally to me, is something completely neutral that's just nothing to do with me, frankly. I haven't got a dog in the fight on either side. But I haven't been offered any money because I haven't been on any of the trips, right? I would have to go and ingratiate myself in those circles for offers to come forth. And I've just chosen not to ingratiate myself in those circles. And again, it's not that I don't have like Jewish friends. I have some Jewish friends, and I meet Jewish people at conventions. They're always very polite. I just don't take any offers to go to, like things. And it's, and I'm not even being judgmental about those people that do. I just really want for us to be independent and to be focused on Britain and England, right? I really think that's important to the mission. Anyway, so they won't let change happen. Yeah, they won't. But remember, they're old, right? Like Poppy Coburn must be in like mid to late 20s. Like she can't be old. She can't be very old. So if that's her opinion now, she's like the deputy political editor of the Telegraph or something. So it's not like she's not in the institution. She's not going in the right direction. This is what we want. We want our people to be moving through the institutions. It's our long march. And in 20 years' time, Keir Starmer's going to be gone. Nigel Farage's going to be gone. Right? I'll be like an old man. I'll be 65. And hopefully our guys will be in their 30s and 40s, and they'll be doing all the things that need to be done. Like I said, this isn't going to happen quickly, but it is happening already. So it's only a matter of time, I think. About to hop on the treadmill. I'll listen to this later. Cheering you on from Florida. The fire rises. Thanks, Leah. I haven't been to Florida in a while, actually. I'll have to take another trip back there soon. Because every time I go to Florida, I always have a really good time. They're good conservatives in Florida. I do like the Floridians. I know they hold good conference. I've been to a bunch of conferences in Florida, and it's got a lot of friends out there, and they're all good people, and I'm very, very proud of them for being such so correct on the issues. Joe says these times are definitely not boring. What's your solution to population collapse, monetary policy, and culture prescriptions? I'm not saying I have all of the answers, right? The thing is, honestly, the population question is one that, frankly, nobody wants to deal with, right? There are certain straightforward solutions to these problems, but nobody wants to accept that basically it's going to mean less dependence on the state, right? So basically, if you are in your 40s now, right, don't expect to get a pension, is the first thing. And I assume you're going to have kids if you're in your 40s. Like, if you're in the 20s and 30s, have kids. Get married, have kids. Because you're probably going to be relying on them, like in old times, in the post-World War times, you're probably going to be relying on them to look after you when you're young, when you're old. So that's honestly what you're going to have to do. I think that's a return to a traditional way of dealing with these things is basically inevitable, actually. Drinkwater says, hey, Carl, I've just found out I'm going to be a dad. Keep up the good work. Good job, man. Praying you get a son first. Not that you don't want daughters, but, obviously you want a son. Reverend North says, got Islander 4 today. Stellar as always. Well, thank you very much. Asmongold is kind of the ultimate average American, as Arch says. If he thinks it's safe to say a majority or a sizable minority of Yanks agree. Hi from Sweden. Yeah, that's another thing I like about Asmongold. He's got just a kind of everyday common sense that you can't argue with, which basically is just. I get the thing that a lot of people do actually think about that. I think the things he thinks. But glad to hear you got your Islander, and I'm very glad that you like it. Sadwings Raging says, make England great again. Yep. Khan says, praying for the health and well-being of the West at large, and for a future that values its past. Keep up the good work, sir. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on us sinners, the Orthodox Christian Zoomers. Yeah, I mean, you guys are well aware at this point. I'm not a Christian, but I consider myself an ally of Christianity. It is the traditional religion of the West, and Christians are just good people, as far as I can tell. Like, I've yet to meet one I think's an actively bad person. Whereas I've met loads of leftists who I think are actively bad people. So, keep doing what you're doing, guys. Stephen says, Sargon of Lord Protector. I'm sure we can find Cromwell's armour in storage somewhere. Well, I mean, this is the thing. The More in Common Foundation. I'll see if I can find it. Right. I should have kept a handy link to it. So, I can't find it offhand, but More in Common did a series of focus groups, and a bunch of people who are just totally invested in the system. These are not people who are revolutionaries in any way. Yeah, we kind of need a new Cromwell, don't we? And it's yeah, I mean, that's pretty wild. Although I can't find it, which is really gutting, because it was really, really interesting. But I've done videos on it previously, so you can find it on my CAD Daily channel. Would I ever have Nick Fuentes on the podcast? Well, I mean, I offered Nick to have a discussion the other day, and he turned it down via intermediaries who know us both. And he turned it down, so I mean, I would love to, but I don't know if I can have him on YouTube. But I'd happily talk to him on his channel or whatever. Jason says, pagans still exist, polytheism based. Love your work, Sargon. Thank you for keeping us posted on the UK. Love from America. Vance Tulsi 2028. Oh, that's not a bad suggestion, actually, on Vance Tulsi. Again, like with the Christians, as long as the pagans are just doing good stuff, I'm fine with it. I'm personally just a non-religious person, so I haven't got a preference between paganism or Christianity, and I'm very much when it comes to this sort of thing, like non-Islamic religions. I'm kind of on the Marge Simpson position. I just hope everyone has fun. I'm not even joking. I just hope everyone has a good time. They can feel the immune system doing its work. There will be no mercy for the complicit cells either. Yeah, that's the thing. They can feel that. This is what the far right is, right? This is what Francis Fukuyama is talking about, the thymotic side of people. He assumed it could be temporalized into a purely individual mode that would be subsumed into liberalism, but that's just not true. That's just not the case. Actually, the thymos is connected to our sense of community, and so the dignity of the community itself plays a large part in our view of ourselves and our own personal sort of pride and self-respect. And that's just something that Fukuyama completely overlooks. But this is what all the flags are out for. This is what they're for. And so, you were wrong. Yet again, another thing you were wrong on. And I just want to be clear. I like Fukuyama's work. I thought The End of History and The Last Man was good. It's just his thesis is flawed. If his thesis was correct, if his assumptions were correct, then his conclusions would also be correct. It's just the problem is his assumptions aren't correct, and so here we are. Bill Gates and anti-Fauci, banks and payment processor, BlackRock and Vanguard Housing, George Soros and WEF. Just follow the money. Yeah, these are all things that need to be dealt with, right? But we have to get... Honestly, we have to have a government, an administration that has a critical consciousness, not of human rights, but of the dignity and the current... the care for the dignity of Britain. Particularly in my case, England, but all of Britain, obviously Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland too. The way that we are respected by people is important, and the lack of respect is also important. And so, when we have a government that has a critical consciousness of these things, all of these things start falling into place because you just start doing things that are obviously in our benefit, in our favour, to our benefit, and will set the country on the right footing. But until you get that, nothing will change. Because at the moment we have a government that is desperate to do everything they can to destroy that. And it's not going to last forever. What's this link you've sent me, Russian? Oh, well, that's really good timing, actually. Speaking of, regimes that have a critical consciousness to the vulnerability of the other, let's watch this.
It feels really sad, actually, because all of the asylum seekers are also like normal, human beings.
Can I ask how that makes your wife feel?
She is feeling endangered, actually. She now rarely goes out to have a walk or something. She feels not really welcomed when she hears such voices. But on the other side, whenever there is a refugee welcoming protests, we feel so much happier.
Interesting. Who paid for that sign? Who funds Stand Up to Racism? It'll be a roundabout circuitous route, but you'll end up at the British government. Like these are paid protesters, whereas the people in opposition, they're grassroots and they genuinely are how the country feels. Interesting. She's like, "Can I ask how your wife feels about that?" So why don't you ask her personally? Why don't you just ask her? Do we believe that Ibrahim actually has his wife in this country? I don't. Until I see proof of wife, I don't believe it at all. But yeah, you see the point, though. It's like, oh, look at these poor refugees. Like, they keep raping people. There are constant, really disproportionate levels of rape from the migrant hotels. It's like, sorry, it's just the fact of the matter. Right? I'm not saying that they're all like this. What I'm saying is, this is something we really don't have a handle on. Matthew says, many think illegal immigration is the source of the problem. Liberals assume facts would reduce opposition, but knowing more is certain to turn people against legal immigration as well. Well, that's the point. I mean, people are against legal immigration. They just want it down overall. Everyone, everywhere, in every cohort, every kind of person you can imagine, probably apart from Stand Up to Racism paid protesters, are against it. It's just in every cohort. So, sent me another link. Let me have a quick look. I'll see if it's relevant. That's really interesting. I went to University of Huddersfield London campus on the 5th floor of this building. See if it's an educational establishment or a bare office fronting a visa scam. Pakistani receptionist confirmed it was the campus, but said no one was allowed up as everything was online. Yeah, I bet it is. What a shock. Anyway. Thank you, Alan. Much appreciated. It's about 6,000 visas a day, assuming a 5-day work week and no work holidays. Yep. Would you interview Yanis Korwin-Mikke again after all those years? I can help make this happen. I would need to catch up on what's happening in Poland. I've been a bit concerned with what's happening over here, to be honest. Sleety says, proof of wife. The problem is she's 12 and it's illegal in the civilized world. Yeah. Bongraker says, 10 billion leaves the UK in foreign remittance every year. Why aren't we taxing this? Again, there are just so many things. There are so many ways in which we're being exploited. And, of course, foreign remittances, obviously. We should be taxing the shit out of it. If the Labour government we're going to tax inheritance tax, but this is fine, is it? 10 billion a year is just being pissed out to whatever foreign country. We're not taking any of that. But if my dad works his whole life and saves up enough to buy a house, he dies and I inherit it, I've got to pay money on that. Fuck off. Honestly. Legalised adulthood says, Rule Britannia, EU can eat a bag of dicks. Thank you. Thanks for $50 as well, man. YouTube Bias says, fed up people saying the UK is a tolerant country. Pushovers more accurate. The UK is run by pushovers. Well, remember, it's tolerant at the top. The people at the top have endless tolerance for any amount of bloody migrants, obviously. But, the British people themselves are actually quite far right, frankly. Don't forget to leave the United Nations. Well, the thing is, the United Nations isn't really the reason anything happens. Like, they can make a motion on whatever they want, but nobody cares. Thank you, Soldier. I appreciate that. What are your thoughts on universal suffrage? If you're against it, what would your preferred method of earning the franchise be? Yeah, I am against it. It was an experiment through the 20th century that I think we can see has deleterious effects, because actually just being a citizen is not sufficient to being someone who makes good decisions, right? I personally think it should be something like net tax contribution over a certain period of time. So between each election, if you can prove that you have paid in that interceding 5 years a net tax contribution of whatever, it doesn't have to be that much tax either. It could be like £500 or something. But as long as your contribution is net compared to what you take from the state, then I think that should be the thing that qualifies you for the vote. Because I don't want people on benefits voting for more benefits. Like, again, like this fucking crazy, isn't it? A quarter of people are fucking disabled. I don't believe it. What are they going to vote for? More disability allowance. That's what. And it's unsustainable. Completely unsustainable. So yeah, net tax paying, I think, is a very reasonable and very fair way to do it. Because I don't think we should do it arbitrarily, right? I don't think it should be one of those things where it's just like certain classes of people know just because we don't like them. That'll come across as unfair, and it probably is unfair, so I'm not really for that. But whether you pay your tax and a net tax contribution for your household or whatever, however you want to slice it, I think that's a very fair way of doing it. Because then you do get kind of like per household contribution, basically. I think that's very reasonable. Drop flyers in migrant zones promoting NIMBY areas. Real says, you're far too liberal still. Okay. Going after the ECHR is one thing. You need to go after the lawyers that weaponize it against you in favour of the invaders. Yeah, but the thing is, the problem you have is that they've actually done nothing illegal, right? They've done nothing wrong by the standards that we permit. We need to change the standards. And then we can't then retroactively punish them for something that wasn't a crime. Unfortunately, well, not even unfortunately, but I think that would be wrong, because that's just not how a fair legal system works. We can speak in thick moral terms, saying, yeah, these people are traitors. Obviously they are. But you don't want to send the state down a path of persecuting people who didn't do anything illegal, right? That's the problem. So, and I don't think that's me being too liberal. I think that's me being reasonable and level-headed about it. There's no point losing the advantages we gain in a fit of passion, right? And they'll all be rendered completely toothless after we've won, because we'll just repeal all of this and their entire career goes down the drain. And they'll be writing blog posts screeching about fascism. But it's like, that's not actually fascism, is it? Dan says, I've loved watching your shift from we can convince them with good arguments and logic to actually evil exists and it's our duty to stamp it out, because my politics have basically followed the same trajectory. Well, it's just, when I was last on Tim Pool's show, again, I think it's becoming a dad that does this, that you realise that being like libertarian about things and be like, oh, we can just live and let everyone be free, like, you realise that's not sufficient. That's not sufficient, and it won't work. It won't work. You have to set a just order, and it really can be summarised in what Tim Pool said to me. He was like, no, freedom isn't the thing we need to worry about. Duty is the thing we need to worry about. Duty to a just order. And he's right about that, and that's correct. And that's the conclusion I came to probably about 5 years ago. He came to only a couple of years ago. But like, we're all on the same journey. We're all going to the same place. We realise, essentially, it is the return of the dads. It's the return of the mums and dads who are like, no, actually, we're right, and we didn't think it'd be possible, but absolutely everyone else is wrong. Everyone else is wrong on this, and we're the correct ones, and we actually are the majority still, so we need to just win this and just set up the country that we think should exist. And when we're finished, they can complain as much as they want, but at least everyone will be safe. Alex says, an update from the last stream. The puppies were born that very night. We all survived, and they're very fat, healthy puppies. All of them are adorable. Well, that's wonderful. Don't tell my wife, because she'll want one, and I don't want one. Making Islander available as a subscription would be appreciated. Yeah, no, I understand. There are lots of people who have asked for a subscription on it, but the thing is, we don't want to be tied into a particular date of release, because one of the great things about Islander, because it's when we feel the time is right, we can allow the things properly gestate and ripen, and so we're not rushed to put out something that we're not happy with. So, and this is why, like, I've yet to hear anyone say something bad about it, frankly. And, you know, you'd think that I'd get some tweet being like, no, this is shit or something. I've not had anything, because we work really hard on it. Rory works really, really hard at the presentation of it, and because the time isn't a constraint on it, we can reflect on what we've done and be like, no, I'm not happy with that. Like, I actually wrote 2 essays, because the first one I'd written, and Rory was like, look, I'm not even sure if we sat down and discussed it, and he was like, well, I wasn't happy with it. And he sat down and was like, oh yeah, no, I agree. And so we had to talk about the theme and what it was that we were trying to properly express. And so I wrote a second article, and a better one, for this issue. The other one wouldn't have been as good, and it would have been a product of a worse quality. But if we were on a deadline, that would have been the article you got. And so I don't want to be like, yeah, no, we'll definitely have a subscription for this, because it will become an inferior product. And we are genuinely at the top of the game here. Like, no one produces a magazine nearly as beautiful as Islander, or as interesting as Islander, with such a diversity of thought in it as Islander. I'm sorry, I don't mean to big it up, but like, it is, honestly, I've looked around, like, and I'm not saying there aren't people who are doing good work. There are plenty of people who are doing good work, but there's definitely something special about this. I can't quite describe it, but in like 20 years' time, I think that people are going to look back with remarkable fondness on these magazines, and having a complete collection, or even, a partial collection, will be something envious. Because, like I said, you won't be able to get them again, right? They're not being reprinted. We have some as a stock, actually, that we've kept for ourselves, that we might sell at events or something, but these are just our old stock, and once it's gone, you know what I mean? So we'll see. But anyway, Russian says, kiss the wall, bigot. I'm not doing it, man. There's not going to be a photo of me kissing the fucking wall. Kai says, does the UK need regime change by the US? Do you have oil or something? We don't need regime change from the US. We do have oil, but we're going to do ourselves. You can already see, despite the glacial pace of British politics, you can already see the things falling into place. Like, people have had enough, and they're going to try with Farage, but Farage isn't going to do it, and then something will come along after him that'll be something that fixes it. Batner says, why can't you just colonise England? You did it before. Well, I mean, that was 1,000 years ago, plus, and it's not that simple. We are the home country. JRL says, I heard you're a fan of Warhammer. Just started to get into it. What would you recommend, reading-wise? Well, I haven't read any of the books. I play the game and imbibe the lore through playing the game. Because it used to be in the codexes, you'd get, like, snippets of information. But to be honest with you, I'm not that impressed with Warhammer at the moment. I want to love it, obviously. Like, I've got half-painted avatars sat in front of my desk. But Games Workshop seems to be doing everything in their power to fucking destroy Warhammer. I don't know why. Like, they're like, yeah, no, what we need to do is make it less cool. We need to make it kind of lame. We need to make it, like, tactical and streamlined. It's like, no, I want big gothic space racists. Knights in armour, beheading infidels for the God Emperor. What are you doing? No, you want tactical guys in, like, recon armour or whatever. It's like, no, I don't want any of that. What are you doing? I don't know what their plan is, but it seems to fuck up. Like, and like the latest Horus Heresy thing, like, it hasn't sold at all. And so it's not like Games Workshop felt like they were untouchable. Weirdly enough, there's a really good channel called Discourse Minis who has been covering this. Now, be warned, she is a leftist. However, she doesn't really bring up the leftism in the videos. And she does really amazing investigative work and presentation into Warhammer 40,000, Games Workshop, and various other like products, wargaming products. And she, so despite her flaws, she does great work, and I follow it religiously, frankly, because I'm just constantly like, oh my god, how could they do this and this and this? And I'm just at the point where I'm like, I'm just not happy with the things they're doing, so I can't really recommend it. Right? Normally, I'd be able to, in previous eras, I'd be like, you need to get this, this, and this, and you'll have a great time. But at the moment, I just can't recommend anything. But yeah, no, she's doing a great job. How would you feel about immigration from countries that are culturally similar? I'm from Australia and always thought of moving to the UK since it feels like an ancestral homeland. Well, I mean, we've always had lots of Australians here, frankly. There are always loads of Aussies. But there are always, there've always been loads of immigration from the Anglosphere, and it's not really a problem. Because obviously they just fit in, because it's the same culture, same values, same language, same law system, same expectations out of life. But even then, I don't really want like 100 million Americans moving here, right? And it's not that I don't love my American friends, it's just this is something that has to have a cap, right? Like there are huge numbers of people all around the world, even if they're like us, the numbers themselves have become the problem. So even if every single person who moved here was from the Anglosphere, it'd still be like, guys, there's way too many fucking people here. Like, way too many. So I'm personally, obviously I'm not against Anglosphere people living here, obviously. But the numbers are a genuine issue, and it's something we've got to think about. Tom Roswell as a contributor for Next Islander? That's a good shout. I do like Tom. There are a bunch of people, actually, who I would love to get articles from. That I think would be really enriching. Tom's definitely one of them. What are your thoughts on Sikhs? They seem to be an example of a model minority. More should be done to recruit, mobilise them against leftist Islamist propaganda. I mean, I like Sikhs as much as anyone else. Like they are like model minorities, as you say. The issue is, again, like I said, numbers. Right? It's not, I don't wish any ill on the Sikhs at all. And I'm not even saying that if we had to remigrate anyone, the Sikhs are not on the top of my list. You know what I mean? But I don't know how many Sikhs there are. In fact, let me have a look. Is this my AC? I think it was my AC. So there are about 20 to 30 million Sikhs worldwide, with 90% of them in India. And it's like, okay, so if we say there are 25 million Sikhs in India, well, I don't want 25 million Sikhs moving here either, right? Like, again, numbers are a real issue. I mean, obviously, as people, the Sikhs are generally very well respected and don't seem to cause any particular problems. They don't seem to harbour ethnic resentment against the British, so that's good. But I just don't want loads of people, and it's, again, nothing against the Sikhs at all. But I've met many Sikhs and I've liked them because they seem to be really quite upstanding people. But it's just numbers. I'm sorry, we're so overcrowded at this point. Britain, like the official estimate is something like 69 million people in England and Wales, or is it the UK entirely? But it's 59 million in England and Wales. But it's definitely more than that, man. Like, the supermarkets estimate around 80 million. And it's like, yeah, they're the ones who'd know, because they're fucking feeding everyone. So, it's just numbers, man. It's just numbers. We are one of the most densely populated countries in the world at this point. So I think we're like the 7th most densely. Let me look that up quickly. Oh, obviously United Kingdom. But that doesn't actually... So England has a population density of 34 people per square kilometre. So, I mean, that puts us about the 30th most densely populated country in the world, which is high. And then the rest of them are like really small, like Singapore, Monaco, Hong Kong, Gibraltar, Vatican City, like city-states, basically. So, yeah, we're really high up. We've just got too many people, man. Will the British monarchy be able to survive if Charles III is an Orientalist and William is also a Weffy type who might become William V, the last? I think people would prefer abdication rather than the abolition of the monarchy. People like the institution of the monarchy. They like the idea of it. But very few people are happy with the monarchs. Like, everyone loved Elizabeth II, but can't say many people are very happy with Charles III. How is YouTube regarding censorship? Not great. Follow the rules is basically the answer. I try to follow the rules as everything I do, because there's no point not following the rules. Although I've noticed a bunch of people have had their channels back. Like, I used to watch Iconoclast because he made really, like, when I was a liberal, I used to watch Iconoclast, and I didn't agree with him because he's very right wing. But he had such a good intro and such a good presentation style that I was like, okay, this guy's, he's got the aesthetic down at the very least. And I hear he's got his channel back. I haven't actually checked it yet, but I heard that he's got his channel back. So, like, and there have been a bunch of people who have just, like, had their channel back. Has Stefan Molyneux got his channel back yet? Like, when Stefan Molyneux gets his back, you'll know it's not too bad. Thank you, Hedge, for the $50 donation. Much appreciated. And yeah, honestly, like, thanks to everyone from around the world, just by the way, because I realize there are a lot of people cheering for us. And I see it all the time, and it's really heartening. It's really heartening. Val says, as a Scot who's lived in England since 2014, after returning from Asia at 16, I've lived in the South Downs and now Canary Wharf, where I'm one of the few white people. They've destroyed my home. Thanks to 10 years of content. Well, thank you very much, man. And don't worry, it's anything that can be done by fiat can be changed, can be returned by fiat. I know you might think not, but trust me, a lot of people can get denaturalized and sent home. We've said on Load Seaters that we can fix the country and restoring this culture without becoming like 1930s Germany. I agree, but could you elaborate on how? I could, but it's a long discussion, so I won't. But directly says, I'll do it elsewhere. I'm working on some Krieg engineers right now, and I'm moving on to the Cadian shock troopers heavy weapons afterwards. I like it so far, but it's a shame what's happened to it. Right, it's a real problem, isn't it? Like, I've noticed that a lot of people in the Warhammer, like, I've seen Discourse Minis videos, but I've seen other people in the Warhammer community talking about it. It's like, yeah, like Mordy and Glory goes on about it as well. It's like, why are all my favourite Warhammer YouTubers being like, God, Warhammer's dying, what's going on? Why are Games Workshop killing it? And then Games Workshop attacking the community at large. Like, just threatening to lawsuit basically everyone in the community. It's like, what are you doing? These are your fans. These people are ambassadors for your products. They make it look good, and they sell it to people in the products that they make, in the videos that they make, and the things that they do talking about it. And you're like, yeah, no, I'm going to crush these people. So what is your fucking problem, Games Workshop? Like, what is your problem? I don't understand it. Anyway, Aaron, thank you for the £100 donation. Much appreciated, man. And I'm going to make this the last one, I'm afraid. When emigration inevitably happens, will anyone who lacks indigenous British ancestry be allowed to stay? What should the criteria be? Yeah, so I do definitely think we shouldn't be as hardline as certain people online are. I think it would definitely... I mean, honestly, I think the Bangladeshi standard is actually a very reasonable one. And it's historically how integration actually happened. You have to be married to someone who is ethnically of this nation, right? That's how it has to be. So if you're not married to someone who is ethnically British, you've got to go, is basically the standard that Bangladesh has. And that's not a terrible standard, because it means that if someone genuinely does love this country and they are genuinely committed, we've got a really solid way of proving it. Right? Because anyone could say, oh no, I love Britain, here's my British flag, and then just go and claim benefits. Right? Anyone could do that. Like, if being English or being British is just I speak, then that's not sufficient. right? There has to be some kind of test of loyalty. Serving in the armed forces, or parents serving in the armed forces, whatever, that's fine. Marrying in, that's fine. And there are going to be a bunch of other criteria as well. But that does mean that a lot of people who came here, in particular in the Boris wave and the Conservative years, they're just going to have to go back. They know they're not from here. They know they've been taking advantage. That's what the remittances are about. Go back. You don't really want to be here. You're not really from here. You're here to take advantage. And we know it, right? So, anyway, folks, sorry if I missed Super Chat, but it's getting on. I've got to go to work tomorrow because I'm on the podcast tomorrow. So I will see you over at lotusseaters.com. In the meantime, go and buy Unlimited 4. Won't be here forever. You'll regret it if you don't get it. Thank you very much for joining me, folks. And I'll see you tomorrow.